Hello and welcome to Just One More Pagani. I must have looked at least a dozen Pagani design watches on the channel over the last 2 years, and like no other brand, Pagani has completely reframed my expectations, what I know it is possible to buy in a watch at less than $100 US. The specs on these things just outrageous. Seiko movement, sapphire crystal, ceramic bezel insert, stainless steel bracelets with screw links. It just goes on and on and on. The one thing you don't get from Pagani though is originality. All of their watches tend to look a lot like something else. Usually Rolex, occasionally Tag, and in the case of this one, their new 1672, it looks a lot like a Seiko. Now my Pagani reviews also come with a bit of a warning. For the $75, $80 that they're charging for their standard models, all of those specifications, your money is spread very, very thinly across the watch. Therefore, I have had occasional issues with spring bars, clasps, and wobbly bezels. They seem to be the things that they can't get right all of the time. I have mentioned it a couple of times recently, therefore, I would like them to do a Pagani Premium. Take all of those specs, but just refine the product a little bit, make it a little bit more premium, but only charge around the $100 mark. And it seems that they are in fact going in that direction. I looked at the No Time to Die Seamaster in November. That was about $130, beautifully finished and a good looking watch. And indeed, this 1672 is around $125, but with a number of refinements you don't normally get on a regular Pagani. Now they do 4 different styles of this new watch, and I have 2 of them here to show you today. Both of them were sent for free by the Pagani Design official store on AliExpress. That therefore is the link I will leave in the description of the video. They also gave me a voucher giving you $10 off this watch until the end of the month. Good luck with that. I'll also leave that in the description of the video as well. That takes it down to $115. Now, regular Pagani about $80, this one $115, $30 to $40 difference between the two. So that is the question today. What extra do you get for your money? What refinements do you get? And I'm going to look at the bracelet, the case finishing, the crystal, the dial and hands, and the loom to see, is it worth paying the extra? Let's flip the camera and find out. One thing you do get if you spend the extra money is a nice new box. The old one, pretty much a standard little bit of cardboard here. New one, PU leatherette style, Pagani design logo in silver. It's much larger. That's going to help protect the watch in transit. And there's a little pouch at the back there for the warranty card, instruction manual, and the polishing cloth. And as I said, 4 different versions of this watch are available. Blue and black dials in each of the 2 different dial pattern variants. That one definitely has more than a whiff of Seiko about it. I don't think they have copied one particular model. There's kind of semi-guarded crowns here, but definitely that dial pattern is like a 62 mass or something. This one a little bit different, and there's some Fotina on here as well. Personally, I would probably have gone for the other way around. I think this style would look good in blue. That one would look good in black. But anyway, let's get into them. So 42 millimeters across the bezel. It's actually a little less. I measure it at 41 millimeters across the case, so the bezel just juts out a tiny little bit on each side. 14.7 mil thick though, but check that, I reckon 2 mil comes from the box domed sapphire crystal. I will say that again, $115, box domed sapphire crystal. Surely only with Pagani. Now they may not have borrowed Seiko's design in its entirety, but they have certainly taken inspiration from them when it comes to a relatively compact lug to lug. 48, just under 48, so it's going to wear nicely. 20 millimeter lug width. On the braceleted version, the bracelet tapers down to 18, back up to 20 at the clasp. Sized up for me, 7-inch wrist. Now I had to take 4 links out, so I reckon 8.25-inch wrist, no problem at all. This one weighs in at 160 grams. The rubber strap version, both designs are available. All 4 designs, I should say. 4 different dial types and colors are available with the rubber strap. That one saves 50 grams, 108 in total. So all stainless steel construction, case, crown, bezel, and full stainless steel bracelet. We do have solid end links. I'll show you those later on. Solid links with push pins, and it is a milled clasp here with 3 levels of micro adjust, double security pusher, and the Pagani design logo etched landscape style on top. Now bezel, 60 click unidirectional dive time bezel with ceramic insert. Sounds nice. nice and clicky. However, there is a little bit of wobble here, as per usual with Pagani, so you pay the extra, but they haven't sorted out that wobble. At least everything lines up nicely, and let me just show you that crystal again. Not sure how much anti-reflective coating we have here. It's a little bit flecto, a little bit shiny. I'll show you outside in a minute or two, but quite remarkable for the money. A nice piece of glass. Probably the most noticeable improvement over a standard Pagani finish, the most obvious one to my eyes anyway, is the standard of finishing on the case. It is very, very nice for what they are charging. Super fine brushing on that mid case, circular brush on the upper lug finish, and a high polished chamfered edge running all the way end to end and around those slightly small semi-crown guards. Pagani branded crown, nice and easy to grip, and an interesting finish to the bezel. It looks almost bead blasted, slightly different to the case, but I'm not complaining because it is nicely done. Now let's have a look at how they've integrated this bracelet end link to the case. Looks a lot like a Seiko in that they haven't even tried to align those finish. It's a vertical finish there, circular finish there, but again, I don't think it matters too much. All very nicely done. Fairly standard 3-link oyster bracelet with screw links, high polish in the middle and brushed on the outer edges. I showed you the clasp earlier on. I will come back to it later on though. It is nice, high polish chamfered edge matching on the case and 3 levels of micro adjust. So there are the solid end links I mentioned, and behind the display caseback, screw-on caseback, 100 meters of advertised water resistance, sits the ubiquitous Seiko Instruments NH35, the standard default choice for pretty much everything, around $350 or downwards, 24 jewel hacking and hand winding auto by Seiko, rugged, robust, reliable and accurate. So 2 different colours, but 2 very different styles, 2 very different dial layouts as well. The blue one I've got has that vintage style, the 14er hands and indexes, big triangle at 12 and tapered batons everywhere else. There is a date complication at the 3 o'clock. It is unframed, but it does have a nice beveled edge. Handset on this one, tapered similarly to match those indexes. There's an arrowhead, very narrow arrowhead hour hand. Slightly tapering minute hand and a very, very attractive second hand with again a little arrow tip tapering all the way back and forward to the counterbalance. Now there is a printed minute track around the outer edge here, but those indexes sit all the way out to the edge of the dial. So you don't see the 5s, but you see all of the others. Pagani design just printed and automatic divers 100 and Japan movement nestled either side of the baton at 6. Now if we look at the black one, that is much more Seiko style. Indexes are also applied, but they're all rectangular. The biggest at 12, large ones at 6 and 9, and similarly sized ones everywhere else. Date complication is framed, just a printed frame in white at the 3 o'clock, and you notice those indexes sit inboard, so there's a printed minute track with 5-minute markers all the way around the outer edge. It's more Seiko style handset on this one as well, with a paddle second hand. Handset's just flat on both models. Again, same Pagani design printed with automatic divers 100 and Japan movement. And the bezel inserts are identical in both designs. There is a bit of sunburst on both models, though it is more noticeable with the blue colourway than the black. And let's get them on wrist. Definitely chunkier than your average Pagani thanks to that 14.7mm thickness, 160 grams and 42mm diameter, but it wears quite nicely. It doesn't feel top heavy. You don't actually notice that's 15mm because a couple of those millimeters are taken by the box dome sapphire. And this is the black version on wrist. I think it's a bit more legible than the vintage style one, perhaps because those indexes and even the hands are larger. If you're not into bracelets, don't be frightened of this rubber strap. It is actually a really good one, which is just as well because they don't give you a discount. It's exactly the same price, $115. Thicker at the top than at the bottom. Plenty of flex, but it's not one of those ones that's going to catch every bit of dust in the house. Seiko style buckle in brushed stainless steel to match the watch, etched with the Pagani logo. 2 retainers here, one of which has got little notches to keep it in place. Overall, very nice rubber strap for the price. Overhead shot, and yeah, definitely the black Seiko style one is the one to go for if you want legibility. I'm going to take these watches outside in just a second and you'll see shiny, shiny ceramic, shiny, shiny sapphire. Not a lot of anti-reflective coating, I don't think. And that's the blue vintage style from the overhead. Definitely a bit more sunburst on that colour. Also, I think a bit more dial space visible because the indices are smaller with this version. Cue the Flecto. Yeah, I don't think they've used much anti-reflective undercoating on the sapphire crystal, and it's a very shiny piece of ceramic. You know, some ceramic bezel inserts can be a little bit flat, some can be really shiny. This is the shiny side. Plus you've got those high polished edges to the case, combining with the high polished center links of the bracelet as well. I wouldn't necessarily call the overall effect tooly, put it that way. And there's a quick pocket shot to finish. I must admit I've been wearing the one on the rubber strap more than on the bracelet. It's a nice rubber strap, as mentioned, very comfortable and takes a bit of weight off the watch overall. So what were our 5 criteria again that we were judging this watch's premiumness against? First of all, it was the bracelet. I think this one is a definite step forward. I love the inverted mid-link of the end link for wear, and that clasp I think is better than their attempts to rip off the Rolex one. Case finishing, probably the biggest step forward. Very nice fine brushing, love that chamfered edge, the whole thing works well. Sapphire crystal, that is a huge step forward in terms of box doming. Those things aren't cheap, and yet they've done it for under $125. Dial and hands, maybe not a quantum leap there. I do like the sunburst effect here, and everything lines up nicely. The 5th criteria, the one I haven't showed you about yet, is the Loom. That segues neatly into the moans and niggles section. The Loom I would class as a missed opportunity rather than an out-and-out disaster. You can see clearly it's the vintage style one on the left and the Seiko style one on the right. If I crank the speed up, it's the hands that disappear on the vintage style one and the indexes that disappear on the Seiko style one. If only they had combined the two, we might have had one decent watch out of the pair of them. But that's all good in isolation. Let's put them against some of the usual suspects. That is a random Vostok Amphibia in the middle, then it's a Rolex style Pagani, and on the right hand side it is the Casio Duro. If I crank up the speed on these 5, the Casio Duro is the first one to go, and then it's anybody's game thereafter. In fact, when we get to the end of the 20 minutes, you can't read the time on any of them. Probably the regular Rolex Pagani one is the last to go. And there are a couple of other areas that I'm going to nitpick that could do with a little more refinement. The ceramic bezel insert doesn't quite sit flush with the bezel. There's just a little sharp lip on the end there. I've seen this before on watches at this price. Aluminium ones tend to sit flush. Ceramic's a little bit thicker, so you get a little bit of a lip. Similarly, those end lugs, there's a little bit of a sharp edge here and there as well. Perhaps because the bracelet end link doesn't quite extend to the tip of the lug. And then there's the clasp. I did say I would come back to this one. I was delighted when I first saw it because I thought they hadn't tried to overextend themselves, and it looks good. Landscape style, etched and with that chamfered edge. 3 micro adjusts is enough, I think, for this style of watch. I wasn't so happy when I saw that they had included a really cheap and nasty diver's extension, which brings me back to a couple of things that don't quite add up with this watch overall. Why put a diver's extension when there's only 100 meters of water resistance? Why put a diver's extension when there is not a loomed pip on the bezel? There's no way. Has anybody ever taken a Pagani design watch diving? Actually properly with an air tank on your back diving? It would not be the first watch that I would think of. I don't think they've designed this one holistically. I don't think they've looked at it from top to bottom saying, well, if it's only 100 meters, why are we bothering with a diver's extension? It's just Pagani trying to do too much and not getting it quite right as a consequence. And the bezel on both of the models is still a little bit wobbly. So even at $115, it still clasps and bezels that let the show down. But I am nitpicking a little bit. $115 for this set of specs is fantastic considering they have upgraded the sapphire crystal and they have refined the case no end. It still comes with a warning, I guess, but you definitely get what you pay for. So there you have it, the Pagani Design 1672, their second foray north of $100 into that budget premium budget end of the market. That's what I'm calling it anyway. Does it justify the price increase? Yes, I think it does. Case finish is fantastic for a watch at this price. Bracelet by and large is also really good. Dial and hands was fine. Loom is better, but perhaps not fantastic. I still think they need to look at these models from the top down, not just let's produce a Seiko homage for a fifth of the price. Why produce a 100-meter dive watch with a diver's extension but no loom on the bezel insert? Some of it just doesn't quite add up. But they definitely seem to be improving. Let's see what they do in the future. Thanks for watching. I will see you then, if not before.